Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the new Conversations in Groove podcast. You might ask yourself, what are Conversations in Groove? Well, it's basically me having conversations with a lot of my friends to find out what their groove exactly is. Is it music? Is it TV and film? Some of them play guitar. Some of them play drums. Some of them don't play anything at all. But we have conversations about how they got to where they are in their careers, things we've possibly done in here, and things they have upcoming. So, welcome to Earthtones Recording Studio, the home for the Conversations in Groove podcast. If you like what you hear, please leave us comments in the comment section below. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel here at Earthtones Official. Subscribe to the podcast on all of your podcast apps. I hope you're ready to have a good time. Welcome to Conversations in Groove. All right, so here we are. Welcome to episode, I think it's 6 now, season 1 of Conversations in Groove podcast. And today I have my guest and one of the coolest cats and one of the grooviest cats that I know, not just in the way that he plays guitar, Mr. Gary Hoey, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, buddy.
How are you, man?
I'm doing great. I'm doing good, man. It's nice to see and chat with you, man. Good to be here.
Yeah, dude. And I know with all my guests, how are you is a very wide and broad and general question with all this crazy year going on. And you know, I won't waste a ton of your time talking about what you did during COVID, but I know that you did some I know that, like all of us, you probably discovered things, you know, and ways to get out to the world and things that got close to you. I know I watch you on social media and we talk every now and then. And so tell me briefly about your COVID experience and kind of what that brought to the table and things that you maybe experienced and learned.
Well, you know, it was interesting. I mean, we all got through it, and the main thing was we got through it, you know, you know what I think, man, overall is this, you know, I said 2 years ago, I was just joking around to my family. I said, hey, man, what if one day I couldn't tour anymore? You know, what would I do then? And then all of a sudden I couldn't tour anymore. So be careful what you say at the dinner table.
No kidding.
But, you know, all of a sudden nobody could tour. So it's interesting because in some way it sort of leveled the playing field in a lot of ways. It made, you know, everyone from us to Bon Jovi have to sit home and face our family and deal with everything. And, you know, and for some people it made it better. It made them go, wow, I really realized what I was missing. And for some people it's like, oh my God, I can't stand the way you chew your food. Let's get divorced, you know. So it did a lot of different things for some people. Some people, it drove them more crazy. But for me, you know, I took a stance. My social media girl I love, she called me. She's like, so are you going to let me go like all my other clients? I said, no, you know, I said, I'm going to keep you on board because I think over the next 12 months, we need to be in people's faces because it's going to keep me sane, my fans sane. And so I said to her, let's just, you know, rather than hide under a rock and go in a studio and make a record, let's stay in and be current. So what I found out was, you know, what else could I talk about? I didn't have a real big tour going on. So I talked about my 82-year-old mother who I have coffee with every day. And I started to just bring my real life into, you know, what my fans were seeing. And I started exercising every day because I didn't want to get out of shape sitting home. So I started encouraging people to exercise. And I just decided that, you know, I got to show people what my real life is. And to get through this, that's what we did. And it kind of made it kind of cool. And, you know, getting to have my kids home from school and college at the time, you know, was a special moment because it was the last time we all were probably going to be together like that. So it had a lot of positive things happen spiritually, emotionally, and made me realize what I'm thankful for and even more now in every way. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I think it was a big reset time, you know, for a lot of people. And you know, if you look on the positive side of everything, it was a big reset. And like you said, with your kids are probably about the same age as mine, maybe a little older. And I think that it brings you closer. Like my youngest son, you know, I feel bad for him, but at the same time, I feel great that I got to have him around because he like basically 15, he just completely missed out on being 15 out in the world with his friends, you know, like not seeing anybody, being kind of locked down and all that. But it was great that I got to, you know, it's very rare that when they're 15 and they start to become very mobile, that you start to see them a lot less. And I actually saw him a lot more, you know, and so that was cool. And I know that with your mom, man, your whole thing with your mom, you had told me about having coffee with your mom before. And then when it became a thing and I watched that, I thought that was so cool, man. That was great.
Thank you so much. Well, you know what? She's a doll, and she's a crack up. And I think a lot of people maybe don't have their moms or their grandma. You know, they relate to her and her spitfire attitude, and you know what comes out of her mouth. She kept cracking me up every day, and I'm like, Mom, I got to put you online because you're going to make people laugh. And it just kind of grew into a natural thing. And then we made coffee mugs and T-shirts, and now she thinks she's famous. So it's funny.
Oh, she is. What do you mean?
She's actually way more famous. Can I be honest with you? When I check out my stats, because everyone's got social media, and you see like what posts kind of do well, and you want to see what people are liking. Anything with my mom, it's like killing everything I do. I can say I did this and I did that. Her posts like get way more love.
Oh, dude, I know, man. I can put things about studio sessions that I have, about making records, about stuff like that. I can put all kinds of stuff up there. But if it's a picture of my dog or a picture of my kids or a picture with my wife, it's like, bam, you know, then all of a sudden I'm like, hey guys, I got to get y'all involved in the whole record making studio business because, you know, you're really good for my footprint.
It's real life. People like real life. They love it.
Yeah, man. They totally do. They totally do. So, so let's talk about, like, a lot of people see Gary Hoey, and I've known, it's so funny, man, like talking with Gales and having him on, and he and I working a lot together lately. You know, I tell him, I'm like, man, I've known you a lot longer than you've known me because I listened to your records early on, you know, and it's the same, like I say, it's the same thing with you. I had the early records. I had that Endless Summer 2 record, the soundtrack to that rolled in my car perpetually, man. So go back to that. Cool. I know that your first big hit as a guitar player was it Hocus Pocus, right?
Yeah, that was the one, the remake. Yep.
That was the one that kind of launched you into, you know, all the guitar magazines and things like that. So at that point, and being, I would say somewhat, I mean, I don't want to call it independent because it's like even being independent back then was, you know, but talk to me about your process as far as how you got at that point and what kind of like label deal that you had, you know, and how you got to the point of going, I'm going to put this song out as a guitar cover, and, you know, like what your plan was. Because everybody has this grandiose plan, and when it finally pays off, you go, I told you so, you know. And
yeah, absolutely. I mean, my story is kind of an interesting story because I grew up, you know, playing in New England on the East Coast and playing, you know, in cover bands and just, you know, trying to become a good guitar player, obviously. But I was studying like everything from blues to Jeff Beck, Stevie Ray, and just really, you know, a lot of the main guitar players that people were studying. And, you know, I did wake up one day, I was playing in a cover band, and I said, you know, I got to stop doing this because I'm just going to end up in a Holiday Inn someday. So I ended up quitting sort of doing top 40, and I started being in an original band, went to making no money, and started playing around the Boston club scene. And all my friends were like, you're stupid, man. You were making $900 a week. So I ended up, you know, trying to write songs and become a songwriter and focusing on that a lot. And one day, Ozzy Osbourne was coming through Boston looking for a guitarist. He came on the radio. And I called the radio station and I started playing over the phone, just, you know, Ozzy riffs. And they said, okay, kids, settle down, send us a tape. So I sent a demo tape in and they liked the song. So they liked a couple songs I wrote. And Ozzy flew me to LA and I auditioned. And, you know, the story's in my bio, but I didn't get the gig, obviously. You know, Zakk Wylde did, and he was so perfect for the gig. But I was a big Black Sabbath fan. I knew a lot of the songs, and they were in my blood. I just loved the band so much. So when I met Ozzy, it was just a dream come true for me as a kid growing up in Lowell, Massachusetts. I'd never been to a big city. And like that, you know, going to California. So after doing the audition, he advised me, you know, he said, Gary, man, you don't need to fucking come out to LA, you know, sell all your shit, man, and get out here, man. So I went home.
Dude, that's one of the best Ozzy impersonations I've ever heard. That's great. That's killer.
Well, I love him. I was obsessed with him for years. But and then I ended up coming home. I sold everything I had, and I saved up $17,000. And I got a U-Haul, and I drove 3,000 miles to L.A., went to Ozzy's house, showed up. He came outside. He's like, "Who the fuck are you? Get off my fucking lawn." He's like, he didn't even recognize me at all. So he had no idea who the hell I was.
So you were like, I'm going to move.
I'm like, Ozzy, it's Gary Hoey, man. He's like, "Oh, fucking Gary Hoey. Hoey, baby, get out of here. Like, Sharon, call the police." So I'm like, okay, fuck that. So I went back to LA, and I moved out there, and I ended up forming a band called Heavy Bones. And Heavy Bones, we had Frankie Benali on drums, God rest his soul. And we had a singer named Joel Ellis who was in a band called Cats and Boots, who was a great singer. And we had
I remember that band.
Yep, Cats and Boots was a band in LA. And so my manager at the time introduced me to the singer. And anyway, we made a record. We ended up getting a deal with Warner Brothers and Reprise Records. It was, a pretty big deal. And it was kind of at the end of the 80s, early 90s. And, we got caught in the crossfire of grunge. And we made a $500,000 record with a big producer, Richie Zito. And, the record just didn't happen. We made a couple MTV videos, et cetera. So it just didn't happen. So I ended up having some instrumental guitar music that I wrote. And I went to my Warner Brothers record rep and I said, "Hey, I'll make a record for $15,000. Just give me 15 grand. I'm going to make a little indie record at Rum Runners Records." And we went in and made a record. And I asked Frankie and everybody for cheap, and I'll give them a point. And I gave people points to help me. And
that's a smart move, man.
And we just made a record. And honestly, bro, I just wanted to, play all my favorite guitar players. If you listen to Animal Instinct, it has a little Jeff Beck. It has a little Stevie Ray. It has a little of Santana. It has like a little bit of everybody I loved. And then all of a sudden I got the Endless Summer 2 soundtrack. And I got to play kind of the surf music and different music that, went to the film. And it just kind of got me planted as an instrumental guitar player, and kind of happened out of nowhere. We ended up with a top 5 Billboard hit with Hocus Pocus. And it was the last song we recorded. It's just my manager said, "Hey, what song did you like to play in the garage when you were a kid?" And I'm like, "You remember that song?" So he said, "Yeah, Hocus Pocus." So we recorded it, and Tony Franklin played bass, the fretless wonder.
Oh yeah, dude.
And he played all the fretless crazy bass on that record.
So the band on that song was you and Tony Franklin and Frankie Benali?
That's Frankie doing all that double bass drums. Wow. And the crazy drumming. It's Frankie, and we had a big hit out of nowhere, man. Honestly, with just no money spent, it just was made from love and passion. And then Warner Brothers saw it take off. We had an MTV hit, and we were in the top 100 played records of that year, early 90s, and it kind of did get me a chance to get in there as a guitar player, and not too many shredders were breaking at the time. Instrumental rock was kind of dying. They said shred was dead, and I just said, you know what, I'm just going to keep doing what I love and what I do. And I just, I was lucky to really make it through. And then my record deal ended when the Warner Brothers regime kind of crumbled, and Lenny Waronker and Mo Austin and all those big heavyweights, they kind of went away. And a new regime took over. And, man, I was there in the day, bro, when I used to sit in the office of Lenny Waronker and Mo Austin and play them demos and cassette tapes of stuff I was working on. And they would literally listen and criticize or say something. And, these were guys that groomed, everyone from Dire Straits to the Doobie Brothers, Ted Templeman.
Yeah.
Worked with Ted, who did Van Halen and all those great bands. So, it just felt amazing to be on that label for those years that I was between the band and then my couple of records that I did with them.
That's so cool, man. I mean,
it was amazing.
And in that time when you were talking about, back in the day, because it's not so much now, as far as label deals being completely different than they were back then. You were talking about grooming artists, and they would so much develop, an artist and take the time with you and listen to your demos and really go like, yes, okay, we're looking 2 records down the road for this kid. It wasn't all about, it was all about hits and making whatever happen, but they would give you more of a chance than they would ever give you now. Yeah,
they were looking at developing. Exactly. They were looking at developing you over time to obviously, because their investment was a lot. And I'll tell you a quick story. When we first signed, my band, the Heavy Bones guys, Joel was the singer and I was the, obviously a guitar player, and we would co-write most of the music, and Frankie would involve in some of the songs and definitely arrangements. But I remember we came to them with what we thought was the 11, 12 like songs that would be the record. We're like, we're ready, we're done, we got 12, let's go.
Right.
And the A&R person, who's sort of like, for people out there, the A&R is sort of like your manager within the label to help you with it's artist and repertoire, obviously, but they help you with kind of your developing and things. So they said to us, well, you know what, we'll think about going in the studio when you guys have 35 songs. Maybe 30, 35. And we're like, wow, to pick from for the record. And it kind of like freaked us out at first. We're like, that sounds like a lot of music to write. And so I think what they were doing was trying to see if we were just going to be a one-hit wonder,
right,
have 10 songs and never, be able to write again. They wanted to see if we were prolific.
They were seeing how deep the well ran, man.
Yes, they were like, what else do you have? Dig deeper. We want more ideas, because the producer could maybe take something and develop it. So we went back to the studio. We were a little overwhelmed. We had some other ideas, but the band was all freaking out. And I said, stop. I said, hold on, man. I said, they said they want 35 songs. They did not say they had to be good songs.
Right.
So I just said, let's just write whatever we want. So we started writing the stupidest stuff. The lady's name was Roberta. So we're like, oh, Miss Roberta, you better not hurt her, and we're like writing stuff about her. And then we're writing things about the dog.
Do you still have those demos? Tell me you do.
I still have those demos, and I came across them recently, actually, because I had a sort of a rodent infestation under my studio here.
Oh, that's no good.
I had to dig deep, so I thank them now because I found all these old masters that we needed to find. So it's crazy how that happens. But we just wrote a bunch of crazy songs, and then some really good ones came out because we freed ourselves up to just kind of not really stress out about every single song being a masterpiece.
Right.
Because we wanted to be the next Aerosmith, if that could give you an idea of the band. The Heavy Bones record for the, I don't know if we sold, 10,000 copies. We didn't sell that many, but I think the people that bought it looked at it like a classic rock kind of 80s meets the Aerosmith kind of era.
That's cool.
But, we were not going to make it in that time. So that's what happened.
I hear you, man. And so that's where, that's where your the instrumental thing, came in, was after that. And then, but prior to this whole thing, go back to the Ozzy thing for me and tell me about, because I had no idea. Maybe I knew that you auditioned for him, but I didn't. It wasn't right on the. It wasn't
right on the front of your mind.
No, not at all. So, so my thing is, tell me and tell everybody about what that, because there's guys, and when they're at your age or they were at my age back then or whatever, and they would think, man, if I just had my one shot, if I just had that. So tell me the reality of what that one shot was like audition wise. Like, what was your day? I don't want you to turn it a long story, but what was your day like? Was it the whole band? Was he there? Who was there with you, and what that sort of consisted of? Yeah,
a lot of it. Definitely a lot of it is a cliche, like the movie, when you see the movie of the guys all lined up in the hallway. But even going back to when I got the call, bro, when the phone rang and I heard this British accent, it wasn't Ozzy, but it was someone else with a British accent saying, hello, this is, work for Ozzy Osbourne. And it was like a road manager like that guy.
Right.
And he's like, he's going to fly you to LA, man. And I'm like, is this Gary? And I'm like, who the hell is this? Stop screwing around with me, Dave, my friends and stuff. I'm like, because one of my friends does a good British accent. I'm like, who is this? And I was hanging up, and he's like, no, don't. And so I ended up, getting the flight out there. And, but, I had a few weeks to prepare for the audition. And honestly, that was a time of very much reflection for me, because I remember I was studying with some guitar teacher in Boston, trying to become great at everything. As a guitar player, learning maybe modes and jazz and all this stuff. And then I get a call going, you're going to play with Ozzy. And these are the 5 songs, or whatever 4 songs it was. It was, I Don't Know, Crazy Train, a lot of the big songs, and Bark at the Moon, I Don't Know. And then they said, and you're going to do an unaccompanied guitar solo. That was another part of the audition. They said at one point, everyone's going to sit down, and you're going to have to do something for 3 to 5 minutes that is just you. Imagine you're in an arena, 10,000 people, like Randy would do, like Eddie Van Halen would do. He would just start going, right, and then maybe do a quiet, clean thing, and then maybe do a classical type thing, then maybe a bluesy type thing, and create sort of a thing. So I had to start developing that solo, and maybe I did like a two-handed tapping thing at one point. I kind of tried to put in like all these elements that I usually would see when I went to a big concert.
Yeah.
And I remember just, throwing my jazz books in the closet, shutting the door. I took a Marshall stack out. I put it on like 10. I went in a rehearsal space, that I rented. And I remember, trying to control that feedback of this stack on 10. It was a little scary because I hadn't really done it in a while. And I had to sort of feel that power. And then when I went to LA to do the audition, now I'm thinking I got my solo, I'm ready. I've got the songs down, I'm ready. I fly out there and I get off the plane and the guy's waiting, and I get in the back of a limo, there's a limousine, and the guy's driving like a maniac. He must be driving 10 guitar players a day because he's driving really fast down Sunset Boulevard. I'm a little scared at this point.
Right.
I'm in the back seat, we're flying around these corners, and I'm thinking, wow, this is cool, but I'm a little scared. So we get there, and I remember coming in, and everyone's really nice, and Sharon was there, and I remember being in a hallway, and there's a lot of guitar players with black leather jackets and long hair.
Right.
There's a lot of guys that look just like me. And I just remember going into the room. I was really blessed. I got to play with Ozzy. He was there. He came in, sang with us.
Oh, wow. That's cool, man.
With a lot of people did not get, I guess, during the auditions. And Randy Castile was playing drums.
Oh, wow. Who was the band at that time? That was right after, you'd said this is between Jake and Zach. So that would have been after the Ultimate Sin record, right?
Yep. And it was Phil Soussan on bass.
Killer bass player.
Yep. Phil's an awesome guy.
Great songwriter.
Great writer. He wrote Shot in the Dark.
Yeah.
He wrote that. And Randy on drums, and just, what a band, man. And I remember going in there, and they had like, forget about one stack. I think it was 4. And it was so loud, bro, like arena type loud, in the big PA and the big room. And they had 8x10s all over the wall, like stuck on the wall, with people. And I remember just literally like tapping, the E string, and I think my hair parted the opposite way. It was like I've never heard anything that loud in my life. So that was a little scary.
Right.
And and we played, and then Ozzy came over and was, shaking his hair at me, going like that, go, go, go kind of thing. And it was a dream come true for me, man. And they liked me. I got a good vibe from them. They asked me to come back the next day. So I got a call back the next day, and the band was feeling good and everything. But, Zach was the perfect guy, man. He just,
right.
I really believe he was the perfect guy for it. But for me, man, it was the most amazing kind of boost of my confidence to say that, I could do something with my life and my career. And, I really think it gave me a lot of confidence in myself. And
yeah, man.
Ozzy to just even look at me once,
being able to get from that point, like you're talking about at that age, and in the town that you were in, and being from the situation that you were band wise, and that's like the dream thing. That's what everybody at that age is like. That's the guitar player that you want to be, right? And then to actually get the chance. I mean, I'm sure aside from having to play all the stuff, it was probably just completely overwhelming experience. But I mean, that's just got to be cool, man. I mean, it sounds very cool.
Well, it is. It gives you that confidence to even just to think about it. You start fantasizing about getting the gig and think about if you got it and things like that. But for me, I kept a positive attitude even though I didn't get it. And then there was a funny chain of series of auditions that I did after not getting Ozzy, just to let you know, before sort of Heavy Bones really developed, and before I kind of waved, this 20-something album career of Gary Hoey. I was trying out for everybody, man. I tried out for Ronnie James Dio.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, did an audition with Dio, and
great.
Became very good friends with Vinny Appice and Claude Schnell and Jimmy Bain, God rest his soul. But just playing with Dio in the room, and the guys in the band again, like they were loving me and saying, Gary, man, I think you got the gig, But
right.
Again, Ronnie went with the young kid Rowan, the British kid.
Okay, so that was I gotcha.
And so he went with, and he was a great kid too, great guitar player. So, and you realize when you're going for a gig, man, anyone out there listening, I mean, if you're really good, be ready, and be yourself. But it just comes down to the tiniest little things sometimes at the end of the day on why you might get a gig or why you might not. And it's really a weird thing, but it could come down to as simple a thing as hair hair color, your hair's too big, your hair's too small. I mean, it could be that other person knows the drummer pretty well, and there's a broski there going on. So don't let it beat you up. You know what I mean? Like if you get an audition, it's such a good experience to go out and play with other people.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm sure in those auditions you probably learned a lot about the professional music industry, like really fast. Like,
yep, absolutely. Well, and it's funny because I auditioned for Cher, because I wanted a gig, man.
I was gonna say,
I want a gig, man. I want to go on the road. I want to eat catering. I want to do something. So, I want
to eat catering. That's awesome.
Yeah, I want catering, man. I just want to eat good. I want to stay in a hotel. So I tried out for Cher, and I do respect her. I mean, it wasn't my my favorite metal gig I was trying out for, but her music definitely had some good guitar stuff here and there in it. And I tried out. The arrangements were cool, and at the time, didn't get the gig again. I think it was a friend of a friend that got the gig, but. And then I was hanging out with Steve Vai, and he says, "Hey, do you want to audition for David Lee Roth?" When Roth was looking for a guitar player.
And, when he got out.
Yeah, when he got out, and I actually did not go in for the audition because I was just starting to work with the singer from Quiet Riot, Kevin Dubrow, who I will say, God rest his soul. Oh my God, all these poor people passed away.
It's
him and Frankie Bonelli together. But I was writing with Kevin actually before I even met Frankie. I was in LA, man, just trying to meet people, and Kevin was looking for guitar players to co-write with. So we were co-writing and writing demos. And so there was a period of time where I was really bouncing around trying to find my home. I even wrote with another one of my idols, Steve Perry from Journey.
Get out!
Yeah, I got to co-write with Steve and had him in my apartment. I was freaking out.
Was that during like his solo career, like after Journey?
Yep. Wow. Yep, that was when he was, meeting with different guitarists and writing with different people, and I got to spend a little time with him, which was just a great experience. And I actually have some demos of him still singing on it.
Oh wow!
And he's like, and I would never put it out, without his permission. But he sang, and then he would be like, "Give me another track," And then he would just do something after that, and it would just be incredibly perfect. And he'd be like, "Yeah, give me one more," and then he would think like a third thing, and it was never going back to do it again. And there's no auto tune, there's no pitching, nothing. His voice is an instrument of God. And we're just sitting in the room. I mean, I literally went to the bathroom. I was stretching the phone, and they're calling my friends. I'm like, Steve Perry's in my room right now singing.
That's crazy,
like, yeah, right.
Dude. That's so cool. So, and when you were making those connections with all these auditions, what I find even nowadays is that it's, people say it's not what you know, it's who you know. I think it's a perfect combination of what you know and who you know. But when you have that initial, not even just the Ozzy thing, but when you have that initial thing and you meet someone who's connected to 5 other different people, or they're in a band that you go and then they hear, hey, there's this guitar player guy that writes with other people, and then you start this networking kind of snowball thing. That's something that I think that I try, I try to talk to young people who are, maybe listening to this show and try to share knowledge with them about that stuff. Like you guys sharing the knowledge of that and these audition processes, and people think, wow, at that time it would have been impossible for me to meet, Kevin Dubrow, to meet Dio, to get into auditions for what. But it's like once you start that ball rolling and you become to me, I find that when you become that guy that knows that has feelers out and meets these people, but you can't just show up after meeting these people and be a schlub. You gotta be able to play. You gotta be prepared. You have to have all the stuff in place. So when these connections fall in your lap, things happen to me now that the 17-year-old me would have freaked out at my age, 53. And I work with people and I go, man, the 17-year-old me wanted to do this, but was not even remotely prepared, to do this. So you have to be, when those things happen, you have to be prepared for them. Did you find that to be true with all those audition processes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you have to you have to look at it like, you know, all the hard work you do, all the hard work you put in, when that opportunity comes, you know, I think you deserve it, you earned it, you're there. You have to tell yourself that, because in any profession, whether you're trying to be a professional boxer, you know, MMA fighter, you know, rock star, CEO, you know, you have to have confidence in what you know and what you've done and the work you've put in and what you can bring to the table. And I remember as a young guitar player, again, you know, breaking into the scene, I got a tour with Joe Satriani, early 90s after my album came out and I had a hit on the radio. I remember, you know, going on tour with Satriani, and it just felt like, wow, this is really happening. I'm playing with some of my favorite guitar players, like Eric Johnson would show up for a jam and I'd be like, oh my God, that's Eric Johnson. I remember, you know, on the G3 whatever tour, getting in and playing with those guys, and Steve Vai, just what a nice guy, and hanging out on his bus, and he's like, Gary, you know, I'm going to show you this song, and I'm like, oh my God, you're Steve Vai, you know. And
that's so
and it was
cool.
so geeky, but he looked at me and he's like, yeah, you're Gary Hoey, I like your album Endless Summer too, man. He goes, I really like the soundtrack. And he goes, sometimes my trainer and I, we work out to that album. And I said, you work out to my record? I was like, no way. And so it blew my mind. But I remember just, you know, these guitar players kind of telling me like, hey, you're in the club now. You've worked, you got a record out, you have a hit, you're on tour. Just, you know, just be yourself and don't worry about not deserving it. You know what I mean? Or wondering why it's happening to you. And I remember, you know, other guitar players doing that to me, just making me feel like, you know, because, you know, you're trying to break as a guitar player, you feel like you can't and reinvent what everyone's already done behind you, between Eddie Van Halen, Jimi Hendrix, you know, and the greatest guitar players like your friend Eric Gales, and these people who do things, it seems effortless. But for me, I just said, you know what, I'm not going to reinvent the guitar, but I'm not going to have a whole lot of fun doing it, and I'm going to play like the people that I like, and it kind of became me, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Even though I was trying to rip off Jeff Beck or trying to rip off this guy, it became me. And I've been doing this retrospective tour lately, going back to my 20 albums and going back to Endless Summer too, and literally having fun playing those songs again and remembering how I played them, and even Animal Instinct, and having to do the riffs again. So
that's cool.
I'm out playing that stuff live, and I'm gonna, you know, do some videos and show people how I played it while I still remember it.
Yeah, man, that's very cool. That's awesome. Yeah. So you're doing so you just mentioned retrospective tour. So you are back doing dates, yeah?
Yes.
And the tour that you're doing is, you said it's a retrospective tour. It's not necessarily, I know a lot of times there's still the old school, like, you know, album tour cycle, you know, new album, new tour, or, you know, new album, new songs in the shows that I'm actually playing, you know. So doing the retrospective tour, that's pretty cool, man. And you got like, did you say 20 records?
I have 20, probably 22 albums, including like all the Christmas and the Heavy Bones and everything. It's probably 22 albums. But, you know, I mean, I say that, but, you know, some of them are live records. Some of them, I did Christmas records for probably Christmas holiday albums. So there's a lot of different music, soundtracks. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff. Yeah,
and so the Christmas thing too, man. I remember that first kind of happening, and what I always admired about you, and it's funny because when you and I first met, I told you, I was like, dude, I saw you, and I mean, you would never remember me at all, man. I saw you, I didn't see you play, but you were doing a tour, and I guess it was for that first record, because and that's what blows my mind too, man. You are the king of endorsements. Early on, you were so cool with the endorsement thing. You had a Rocktron endorsement, I think it was, right?
Yes. Yep.
And I remember I was driving, I had a real job at the time. Not that this is not a real job, but I had a real job at the time, and I was traveling, and I was driving through Oklahoma. And I remember I would drive through these states I'd never been to in my entire life. And I would flip on and try to find if there were rock radio stations in town. And I remember one of the radio stations saying that you were at, it was an advertisement or something, that you were live at it was either a music store or a record store or something in Oklahoma or Oklahoma City. I don't know if it was Tulsa or Oklahoma City. Anyway, and I was driving as fast, looking at my atlas. You know, we had atlases, you know, we didn't have any GPS stuff. So I'm looking at my atlas, and I'm trying to figure out where this place is, and I'm pulling around, and I finally find this place, and I pull up, and you're packing your stuff up. And I walked up and I just briefly chatted for a second. You had your Rocktron rack mount gear. I can't even remember if I saw any guitars that you had, but I thought that was so cool because you were on that, you were doing that tour, if it was promotional stuff for gigs or whatever it was, but you were doing that tour and you were by yourself and you were playing to, I guess, backing tracks, maybe?
Yep. Oh yeah, because I used to do that at radio too. I used to bring a DAT machine. I was one of the first artists to go into live radio, bringing a DAT machine and a rack that I would wire into a mixer, and I would, go into the station and ask them to patch me in, and they'd be freaking out because they hadn't opened the stuff since the 70s, So yeah, and then I would do clinic workshops, maybe like what you were saying, at a local store if I was endorsing either Hamer, Fender, Rocktron, and D'Addario strings, whoever it was at the time. And it was funny, bro. Sometimes to try to fund whatever tour I was on, sometimes I would have gigs, and maybe on the off days we would try to do clinics in a music store to kind of cross promote maybe, or to pick up extra cash on the days off. I mean, I was just trying to sometimes get as many companies, working together in some way,
right.
To help out.
You were hustling, man. I mean, that's a hustle, dude. That's not, and people think about that even at that point. They're like, having a song on the radio, all that stuff. And you were talking about Tour Satriani and all this, and they look at it and they're like, man, that's the rock star life. That's where I want to be. And then you're like, man, I am hustling on my days off. I'm playing things that come up, and sometimes probably last minute things that come up. If you go into a town, where's there a store? Can we do something? You can plan some stuff, but it's a hustle. And although I'm at that age, it's a lot more fun to hustle than it is to have to hustle later on and do so much work. But it's a hustle, man. I mean, and it is, and it's a lot of work, man.
It's a tremendous amount of work, and I have to tell you, I mean, Fender, 1 year alone, I did like 58 clinics, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it was a lot between everything else. But then we, when I was on Warner Brothers, man, they used to work me like it was unbelievable how hard they would work me doing promotion, and I was excited to be on tour and doing promotion and doing radio interviews. But wow, I've never seen a machine like that function where they would have me anywhere from sitting in a room doing interviews every 15 minutes for 8 hours.
Wow.
With a lunch break and something in there, a break here and there. But it was really unbelievable. Like, you would end one, put down the phone, another line would go on, and you'd be like, hey, it's Gary, and you'd have to answer the same questions every 15 minutes. And then another thing was, I was very blessed to have this. I had one of the heads of Warner Brothers, Michael Lenahan, amazing guy, used to take me and fly me, all over the country to do radio promotion. So we would come in stations, do interviews, and, try to get people to take my record on. And it was an amazing time, man, because back then, you would literally, like, the station, sometimes DJs were really nice in the South, especially. They were so sweet down South. They'd say, man, I'm adding your record today, more, in heavy rotation. Because you played on the radio, right? And because I came in and played live right in their face, and I wasn't just,
right.
And I always showed up on time, and I was humble. And if they said, can you wait till we finish the sports, and then the girl's going to do traffic, and then we'll have you play, I'd say, I'll play behind traffic. And they'd say, you're going to play behind traffic? And I'd go, boom, digga-ding, 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 and I'd play a little chicken picking thing behind traffic.
That's great.
And I was so humble, and the DJs remembered that, and they appreciated that. And I'm not mentioning any names, but some rock stars come in and they're like, I want to be in and out. And there's a manager yelling, saying he's only got 10 minutes. And I'm like, come on, you're already here, man. What do you do? Go to the Pancake House? Just be nice,
Yeah. And I mean, and that speaks, in that industry, it really speaks, I think it really speaks volumes, when you get into that and having to deal with so many different people in so many different towns. And they're used to dealing with rock stars all the time, man. I mean, back then, so.
And if they're a big fan, that you want to be nice to them too.
Well, exactly, man.
Because if they're over the top fans, like, they're expecting you to be kind of, this guy's like bigger than life or something. They build you up, and then if you're not cool, then you let them down. So for me, I've always been, I always be cool to people. You just have to be.
Yeah. So you mentioned Fender earlier, and Fender having you do clinics and having you do stuff like that. And it didn't even really hit me until we met how long you've been with Fender and been a Fender guy and just been involved in that company. I know that you were playing, and I'm looking at I'm pointing at it. It's it's behind my camera, so you can't see it. I'm looking at my EVH 5152, your small traveling head. I've got the exact same one that you have. And I remember I was like, they're actually made by Fender now. Right, so EVH
Fender started to manufacture them, and you were the one that advised me to get the mod. Thank you.
Yeah, dude, the mod. I got it on. I'm sitting here looking at that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that from you,
dude. It works, right? Because that's the first thing that
brilliantly, and it makes the amp much better. So every day and every show, I think of you. I'm like, thank you, my man.
I swear, dude, because that channel 1 and 2, it's like you had to just pick which one you were going to use because you couldn't use both of them.
That's why you are, and that's like that song. That's what friends are for. For amp mods.
That's exactly right.
For helping you at 3 a.m. when your Pro Tools is dying and crashing.
Oh my God! Oh my Lord, man! I swear, it's that. I mean, everything. I mean, and that's hilarious, dude. But yeah, that's right. I totally forgot about that because my buddy Dale is a Fender guy, and he was like, they got a mod for that thing. And I was like, what? And then I knew that you and I had literally had that conversation. And I was like, man, you got to get that mod, dude. So
I'm in love with the Stealth right now. I've got the Stealth on right now.
Yeah?
And oh my goodness, that head, bro, is so incredible. Eddie, God rest your soul, my man. What he did with the Stealth, and when I first got it, it's all black, and all the knobs are all black. So I replace all the master volumes with white knobs.
Yeah.
And I do the same on the other head that has all the white knobs. I replace the masters with black because I can't see them on stage. But the head, it just sounds so incredible. I have it on right now, and I got a mic on it. But this is just the clean channel. I mean, I don't know if you can hear, but this is the clean channel. And it has like a gain where you can crunch it up a little bit just for channel 1. I can't get to the foot pedal from here, but this channel alone, man, is like. Sounds pretty cool, huh?
You are my first guest to play guitar live on air, man. So I love it. Your setup, that goes back to the walking into the radio station, just patching directly in. It sounds so killer, dude. It sounds great.
Well, what's funny is again, the same thing for me is, when we went on lockdown, I wasn't really good at like live streaming too much, and I started learning and watching videos from people and stuff. And then I started running it into a little Focusrite into the computer. And so to simplify it, I kind of have a mixer over here with a PA that I'll use to kind of rehearse in my room. And then I just kind of run stuff into that, and then I can just patch it into the Focusrite. So no matter what's in there, I can mic a guitar in here, or and let that happen. Because for me, and it's funny you say that, because I play over the radio a lot when I'm doing interviews on the phone.
Right.
And I have an iRig that I kind of set up with a separate mixer that I can split and use it for phone interviews with your iPhone. People out there, if you don't know, if you get yourself an iRig, you can actually do a splitter thing with a mixer, and it's really cool because you can do phone interviews where it sounds to the guy on the other end like you're right there. It doesn't sound like you're on a cell phone at all. Like what I do is I use this mic, I run it into a mixer, then I use an iRig, and the way the iRig works is you get a split. You can split it out and run the channel into a monitor channel or an effects send, and then I can share the setup with you if you want. But
that would be killer.
And then you can do phone interviews that sound like you're right there. And the same thing, I'll pick up my guitar and I'll play through like my Line 6 pod or something over there, and the guy on the phone, the DJ, will say, "You're the first person that ever played over the phone." Because a lot of people don't do that on an interview on the phone. They don't start riffing out.
You're like, bro, I have made a career out of this. You better. I mean, dude, you could be like a friggin' consultant for people doing that. I mean, think about your whole Christmas thing. Your whole Christmas thing. I remember stations here. I remember stations here, and they would be like, oh, and this, you know, and it would be like holiday season, you know, and this Tuesday morning, you know, we have Gary Hoey, you know, with Ho Ho Hoey. And I was like, did they just say Gary Hoey's going to be on the morning show like at Christmas time? Like, and then it became that whole thing, man. And you would just wear out the radio circuit and the morning shows too, man, like hit them in the morning. Yes. And then you would have a show and you'd be promoting a record and all that. And I was like, man, you are a marketing and promotional hustler, dude.
Thank you so much. You know what? It was a time where, you know, for me, you know, I guess if you played enough shows, everybody out there, where there's no one in the seats when you get there, or you tell your agent, I want to go on tour, and you know, he sends you to Tulsa and there's 5 people there, and you're just trying to get them at the bar to turn around and just look at you, you know, so you're playing all night. And I've been there. So what I found out is after I went home is I would rather, and I did this so many nights, man, I'd play a show and I would drive all night to get to Detroit, Michigan. I'd fall asleep in the parking lot. I'd wake up at 6 or 7 in the morning and I'd go in the station and I would do an interview that I slept in the parking lot. I never even got to the hotel because I had to drive all night to make it to the radio station. But then I would go on the biggest rock station in town. And then that night we would sell like another 200 tickets that weren't even sold. So I had to kill myself to do it. But it was really what we had to do. I remember being in airports, falling asleep under the chairs at the airport, just crawling up in a ball, just telling my agent or whoever I was with, going, I can't even move, man. Or do we have to go to that city? And just being that tired from physically traveling and doing everything we had to do. But I was young and I just did it. I'm like, yeah, man. And then, you know, after the show, we were okay and we'd start over.
yeah, man. I mean, that's and that leads me to the fact that I know that you are a workout fanatic and you keep yourself in shape, and that's killer to me, because I think that is another portion of the thing that kind of gets left out. Like, you don't see, you're talking about the sheer, you know, how tired you can be from, you know, and calling. And the thing is, when people are like, work, you know, and they're thinking that, you know, playing is fun all the time, you know, because you're in a band and you play guitar and that's what you get paid to do, you know, but it's a ton of work and it's a ton of no sleep. And I noticed that you work out like a maniac, like religiously every day. And I think that's killer, man, because, and tell me about how important that is to your overall routine as far as touring and things like that.
Well, you know, I think, and physical to me, especially as we get older, you know, I think it becomes more important. You know, when you're young, I mean, you can be on tour and your workout on stage is pretty good. You know, you're working out every night, you're on stage, you know, that's a pretty good workout, and you just don't need as much. But I find as I got older, I was having more aches and pains, you know, just more like my knees hurting, you know, my knees cricked out, or my shoulders just keeps hurting. The guitars are literally hurting my shoulder just to hang on me. So I started feeling like like a sloth or whatever. I wasn't in the shape I used to be, too busy to work out. And as a teenager, I grew up in martial arts. You know, a lot of kids did growing up, taking karate and different classes like that. And we grew up, my friend and I, Dave, took martial arts. And, you know, it was at a time when I was like 13, 14, and it kept us off the street. It kept us out of trouble. We were in there 5 nights a week. I got my black belt. And I, you know, fought in some tournaments, you know, karate tournaments as a teenager. So martial arts became a really important thing to my life. And people that know me know that I love the UFC. I have, you know, friends in the UFC, and you know, the dear friends of mine that are in the UFC. So I have a lot of respect for martial arts. And so I kind of learned, I think, the discipline through martial arts of, you know, you got to keep working hard at something to achieve. And over time, if you stay focused, you will achieve it if you keep doing it. So I learned the discipline from the martial arts, and that also transcended when I started to play guitar. When I was a teenager, I thought I was going to end up with a dojo with, you know, 300 students, and that was going to be my life, until music took me over. And then when music took me over, I realized, oh man, this is what I want to be doing. This is what God made me here to do. So music took over, and I transcended the same thing, building up to playing 10 hours a day to become a better guitarist, going in every day, whether I wanted to or not. And, you know, it gave me that focus. So when I started to find COVID hit and everything, I started to share my workout with people. I was more private about it before. But what I find is this: I would love to wake up every day, man, and just go to the studio and grab my Strat or my Les Paul fall on my hammer, and just put on some cool sound and start, becoming a better guitarist and go in, Pro Tools and record new songs. But if you do that every day and you don't take care of yourself, then what happens is you don't give yourself time to get away from all those things, force yourself to focus on you for an hour, and get a good sweat going to get the toxins out of your body, and maybe have a struggle in front of you, because I feel like it prepares you for the day, it prepares you for life, and it gives you time to just build up the strength in yourself that you need as you go on. And I think when people first get back to it, it's difficult, but as you get more strength coming back, you actually feel more confident, you feel better about doing it. And so I'm an example of it. I'm 60 years old, and I'm not on any medication. I don't take anything, and my numbers are really good. And I personally eliminated a lot of pains that I had that just went away by building my muscles a little stronger and giving myself some support for the joints, and then also spending an hour doing cardio every morning. I built up to it by just walking fast. I don't run. I don't pound on pavement. I literally just do a power walk for an hour, and it really gives me a lot of good stuff.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And I know that it just not even for guitar's sake, but I know that just doing it clears your mind in the morning. It feels to me, when I do have time to work out, which I'm not as good at it as you are by any means, but when I do have time, I feel like I've accomplished something before I even start what I really need to get accomplished. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I've accomplished a task, and so in my head I feel like, okay, I've already accomplished this, and like you say, it's for you. So I know, working in here and working in the studio all day, and then you hear I have guitars, I have music coming at me all day. Very rarely do I get in the car after I leave here, for 10, 11 hours of doing this, do I crank up music and listen to music on the way home, because I'll listen to podcasts or I'll listen to whatever, talk radio or something like that. Yeah. That takes my brain out of that. You have to unplug it to be able to focus in on something. You have to unplug from it and get away from it for a little while.
I'm the same way. People ask me all the time, Gary, you do an hour treadmill every day. What do you listen to? What's your playlist? And I really don't have a playlist, because music is my life. Music is everything I do. From the time I get off that treadmill and I'm done getting ready to go my day, it becomes all music. I'm either editing something for Lita Ford, I'm mixing something, I'm working on a new record, I just got invited to do a song, I just got invited to be in a movie. I'm going to do a little scene in a movie coming up, and just things have been coming in that are just small little projects that are like really cool for me to be able to do. So when I work out in the morning, I totally get away from music completely, and I either put on like old Twilight episodes or something. I just watch something on TV.
Right.
I turn on the news for 10 minutes to make sure nothing's blowing up. I'm like, okay, we're still good. So that man, you're perfect at the segue, man. Like everything you're talking about, I can just segue right into something else. So let's talk about, you just mentioned the Lita Ford record. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that record and what you're doing with that now. And this is is this the second one you've done for her? It is the second one. And I did want to say one more thing just to end the whole exercise thing. I do want to tell musicians out there, if you work out regularly, you will be it'll affect your musicianship. You will be a better musician. I'm not saying you're not great now, but exercise really enhances it. And also the same with engineers, producers, mixers like me and you, my friend, and you're a musician, you do it all. It's, when we're crippled over this console and we're just working endless hours in the studio, I find just getting a chance to work out, just keeps me in tune with where my body's feeling and how everything's feeling. Even in the studio, I'll be like, I'm going to get up for 10 minutes because I can just kind of feel the tightness in my neck or whatever happening.
I swear, man, it's like the sitting and the looking at the screen is just like, woo, kills me.
It's brutal, and people don't realize, and you get all locked up in the shoulders and everything. And it's funny because Father's Day was this weekend. I got to show you guys this. Geeked out. This is one of my Father's Day gifts. So I got one of these things.
Oh, dude, I got one of those when I bought my
it's got the different attachments.
It's killer, right?
Yes, you can put it on your little things that are all burnt out, and it takes the knots out. So anyway, pretty cool, man. It's a massager thingy. So we're talking about the Lita Ford.
We're talking about the Lita Ford record. Yep.
I'll just give you a quick story. We basically we did the last record together, which was called "Living Like a Runaway," and it was pretty much her real comeback record from her divorce. And she ended up writing a book called "Living Like a Runaway," which tells a lot of what she's been going through the last 20 years in her career. So we made a really cool record together. We became just great friends, and we have this amazing chemistry when we're together that we finish each other's sentences. We both grew up on the same music. We have a similar outlook on things, and just created a chemistry. And after the last record, a lot of time has passed. She's been doing a lot of stuff. I've been doing a lot of stuff. And this new record she's finishing now, I just think is incredibly amazing. She was supposed to do the Alice Cooper tour this past year, but the COVID thing hit and she didn't get to do the Alice Cooper. And now she's just finishing the record and doing a bunch of tour dates. But she's in, honestly, the best shape physically. She almost went like vegan. She's healthy, clean and sober. And she's, just in the best shape I've ever seen her singing and playing.
Did you make her start working out?
You know what? She kind of started on her own. She said my posts were rubbing off on her a little bit. She's like, Gary, I'm sick of seeing you in the morning. Let's go.
I swear, man. It's like I want.
So she got a mountain bike and she started mountain biking.
That's awesome.
And she's doing awesome, living out in Arizona in the desert. She's living. But this new record she's doing, man, I can't say too much about it because I want to let her say it when she's ready. But I can just tell people this: it's got some great heavy tunes. It's dark in some ways, but it's really uplifting. And the guy mixing it is Max Norman. For those of you that might know him, Max Norman, who did, Bark at the Moon for Ozzy. He did Countdown to Extinction for Megadeth. So many great hard rock metal records. Lynch Mob. I love Wicked Sensation.
Dude, there's a classic video of Lynch and Max Norman in the studio that George Lynch did this instructional video that we all used to watch when we were in college. Me and my guitar player buddies, and Max Norman has the classic, sitting at the console, rocking out, with his hands on the faders kind of thing. And that whenever I hear Max Norman, man, I think about that. I think about that video. But he's done so many classic records, man.
Yes, he's done so many great records and a great engineer, producer. So he's mixing this album. And it makes me really happy because the last album I engineered and I mixed. And, I'm a pretty good mixer. I'm okay. But I just feel like I'm a better producer and a better guitar player. And I like to let mixers mix and let guitar players play guitar. So I said to Lita, I'm not mixing this record. I don't care what you say. So she said, well, all right. And so we got Max Norman, and I love it because I get to talk to him, and he's like, hello, Gary, how's it going? I'm like, good, how are you? So we can do British together.
Exactly. I know that I've read some of her press, and it's so funny, man, because I read my guilty pleasure every night to get my head out of listening to music is I read Blabbermouth, and they have the most outrageous headlines and things like that, right? So that's why I keep up with like my rock and metal news, and half of it I don't even know the band names. I'm like, I don't even know who these people are. And so it's funny, man, because there'll be a headline with Gales, or there'll be a headline with like Lita Ford and Gary Hoey record, blah, 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 and I'll be like, there's Gary's name on Blabbermouth. That's cool, and then I read her interviews about it, and she's just raving about the guitar playing on it. She says she's so confident in her guitar playing on this record that she just feels like this is some of the best guitar playing that she has ever done. And I'm like, I know who was there pushing her to play. It was you.
Yes, for me, for sure. It was me. But you know what? She didn't need a lot of pushing. I mean, she was doing great on her own. And I don't know. We were just excited about the guitar stuff. And I kept pushing her a little bit. I was like, Lita, man, this man, you should just shred out this end section. Just do it, man. Give him some guitar, give him this and that. Let's do some harmonies. Like she would play a part, and then I would harmonize with her. And we were thinking, all kinds of stuff like, the early Alice Cooper records, the Scorpions. We're thinking about, Rick Derringer. We're just thinking all these bands that would have double guitars going and really complementing each other. I guess she was talking about Dick Wagner and different players like that. So we tried to capture that. And I think we have some just really great layers of guitars and cool mixtures of tones. And it is a very guitar album. I think people are going to just love it, man.
That's awesome. Do you know what the release date? Do you know what the release date on it is?
Well, she is, you know, the COVID thing hit, and she kind of, you know, said, let's get it done, and then we'll figure out when to get it out. And I know she's been shopping the record, you know, and again, I can't say a couple names that she's been talking to, but it's making me really excited for this one person that's talking to her about doing the record with this label and this person behind it, which again, I can't say because I don't want to get in trouble, but it's somebody in the metal, I think in the metal world, that's so well respected that when people hear the connection with Lita, it's just going to be like, okay, this is a no-brainer. You know, so that's coming, and I have a feeling it'll be coming out in the new year, just because of the way things are going. You know, getting it mixed, and then the proper setup for whatever the deal is. So I'm thinking the spring.
Now, is it mixed and done now?
It's more than halfway done. It's more than halfway done, and yeah, and Lita, I don't know if she's been talking about it. Maybe she did talk about it, but you know, she did do a duet with Doro.
Okay, that's cool.
You know, the amazing metal singer who, like, to me, she's like the Lita Ford of Europe.
Right.
And she was here in my studio, sitting in this little chair. She's so cute.
She singing. Actually came there to track them. She didn't do them. She didn't do them remotely and send them in.
Nope. We sent her the tracks and different things like that. And I think she had some ideas. But Lita, you know, Lita was the one who said, you know, she's got to fly here. And she came here with, I think, her manager or her engineer kind of guy and her boyfriend, I believe. But they came and just, you know, it was an amazing time to have awesome, them together here. And again, that's Lita. Lita is an incredible visionary. She really has a great picture of what she wants and how things should be done to make it cool and awesome. And that's what she did. She's like, we have to do it in the same room at the same time. So when she came here, cool. That made it really special. It did.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. And I know that is in such the classic rock and almost metal category. So let's just talk briefly. And again, man, I don't want to keep you too terribly long. You tell me when you got to scoot, man, and I'll let you.
Well, I got a pizza in the oven, but you know the pizza's almost done. They're cooking. The family's in there cooking some pizza.
Oh, tonight, I'm so sorry. I don't want to hold you up from dinner, man.
I'm not even worried about it. It's not done yet. They're still. I'm looking at my phone here. Hold on. What she say? She says, okay. Yeah, pizza's not done. We're good.
Okay, perfect.
See, this is how real this thing is, man. We got pizza cooking. My bro here.
I swear. It is truly conversations. Like that's all.
This is never mind the UFC. This is as real as it gets. That's your new logo.
I'm gonna put it up. I'm gonna edit it into the.
I'll call Dana White. He'll be suing you.
So let's talk about how you got out. Not necessarily out, but you got sort of into the blues community and doing blues festivals and playing things like that, because to me it's like you're a high octane blues player, but you go into these festivals, man, and you totally win people over. You know what I mean? You're not the rock guy. You're not the rock guy that decided he was going to play blues. To me, you can tell all that influence on you, and just tell me briefly how that, you know, and I know that's been a big part of the last, how many of your last records would you consider to be blues records?
Well, it's definitely been the last 10 years. And it's funny because the first full blues record I did, which, you know, going back to my first album, there was a blues song on it. You know, Animal Instinct had a song called Texas Sun, which I had done for a tribute to Stevie Ray because he passed away. And man, that song, it's just a barn burner. And that one was me, you know, trying to be my best Stevie Ray. And so I've always had the blues in there for sure. And at the end of Lita's record, Living Like a Runaway, we had spent, you know, a lot of time on this kind of metal record. She had been going through a divorce. It was very emotional for her. We were all going through a lot together as friends. And so when it ended, I'm like, you know, I just want to do a blues record, man. You know, I just want to do a blues record because it's fast and furious, man. Just go in, it's raw. So I did an album called Deja Blues. And that single, man, that one song, Deja Blues, it's a little bit Robin Trower kind of sounding. That has become almost one of my biggest iTunes downloads. It's become almost one of my biggest iStreams. Whatever, Spotify. But it's just popular for people. And so that album, it just got me into doing like a full blues thing. And I decided that I would I would stick with the blues and sort of try and maybe just, fuse the blues and the rock of what I was doing, maybe thinking, okay, I'm getting into my 50s now. It's time to, do the blues. I was thinking to Gary Moore, and I was thinking these people. And also the timing was right. I'm a person, the way I've survived in this business for 30 years, honestly, is I pay attention to timing. I watch when things have kind of got done and it's time for me to move on. And I pay attention to the scene and what's happening in the industry. And I'm not trying to follow trends, but I realize when it's time for me to reinvent myself. And so the timing happened with Mascot Records. They were into, rock blues records like Bonamassa and some of these great blues rock players, and especially guys from America were kind of doing it. So I had signed with them, and they did an album called Dust and Bones with me. And then my latest one, Neon Highway Blues, was with Mascot. So again, the timing was great for me to do blues rock, because they were interested in signing me as that. And my manager said, Gary, they don't care about your shred. They don't want an album of shred guitar, instrumental rock. They don't care. And I said, great, because I'm not doing that right now. I have these blues songs.
Right.
And so timing was good. I wasn't trying to fake it. I was really into it. And Frank Solomon, who's been managing me, he also manages Steve Morse and Vinnie Moore and
Vinnie.
Some great guitar players, and Dream Theater, that other amazing guitar player.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Not too bad. So Frank Solomon, I thank Frank, honestly, and Jake, his son, Jake Solomon, great guys for helping me to introduce me to Mascot Records, and Ed over there, who also has, Eric Gales and all these great other artists. I'm assuming that they're still with. And, my original manager, Dave Kaplan, he was the guy that got me my Warner Brothers records. He was the guy that got me Endless Summer 2 and introduced me to these amazing people. So again, guys, your managers, and the people out there that behind the scenes that can help you, again, when they tell you to go there, show up and just do your job. Dave used to make me do the craziest things. He'd call me and say, I need you in Burbank at 3:00. I need you there doing this. And I would stop whatever I was doing and go do it. And it really helped to in this music business, no matter what you're doing, man, be the guy that says either yes or says, you know what, let me see if I can make it happen. Let me see. Because if you're the guy that always says no or always has an excuse, then people won't call you.
Yeah, you don't get called back. That's
you just, you know what I mean? Like it's just like, for me, people see someone that's busy and they just think that guy's happening, man. He's always somewhere. He's always doing something, and they don't know if you're always getting paid or not. They just know you're busy.
Yeah.
And one feeds the next. And I'm not trying to say go out there and do everything for free, but even my friend Benji, when you said, hey, Gary, you want to do my podcast? What did I say?
You said, of course.
I said, of course, man. I'd love to, because I love you. I love hanging with you. And I just said, this will be a good time. And whether I can help you develop your thing that you're doing, and you're obviously helping me, I just feel like, find a way to make it work, man, because you're going to just build your career.
Excuse me.
And everything you do is not going to be, the most amazing thing, but make the best of it. And I used to show up at in-stores, and the PA would be in a box, and they'd be like, here's, and there's 300 people in the store waiting for me. And I have to build the PA in front of everybody, and I'd make jokes, and I'd say, hey, man, hold this, and just whatever it is, just make the best of it. And if, it doesn't go your way, it's not a big deal.
So, yeah. And dude, every bit of what you said is correct. I was talking to, I was in a session until about 5:00. So I was throwing the setup together, to get this going. I knew we had this going on at 6, and I had a client in here, and I was telling her, I was like, there's so much stuff that you do in this that you don't, that you're not getting paid for, but like this place of mine is my command central, just like your studio in your home. It's your command central, man. It's like everything that happens Gary Hoey wise, unless you're on the road, the majority of it happens there, and it comes back to there. Like all that work that you're out and doing comes back to you, and it comes back to there, whether you're getting paid for the work up front, whether it's stuff that you're doing that's a favor, whether it's stuff like that. So I try to do things like that, and I try to do things like this, because if you do them, excuse me, man, if you do them and you do them with good intentions, then it's all going to feed back to you. You know what I mean?
Giving back. It's like giving back too.
Yeah.
You know, it's like giving back, because if I can tell my story, you know, and you can share me with people, it's, you know, maybe one thing I say will open a door for someone.
Exactly.
And they can go, wow, Gary said that one thing, I'm going to try that, or this or that. And that to me is giving back, because I have experience. I've gone through stuff, and I remember reading interviews, you know, and just going, oh, I want to hear what that guy's saying, because I need his experience, and you know, to hopefully learn from and grow from, and that's what we're here for, you know, is to share that.
And it's some of the smallest things sometimes too, man. Like I'll have a kid that like one of my hustles when my studio is in a newer location over the past few years. But when I was in my old location, I was there for 16 years. And man, when I started out, I didn't have a lot of daytime and afternoon sessions. So I would teach guitar lessons for 3 hours, you know, 30-minute lessons for 3 hours. I had students that would come to me, like I didn't want to teach guitar. But again, it's one of those things where they say, can you do this? Their parents would approach me and say, can you do this? And I would say, sure, I can make it happen. You know, so it became that kind of thing, you know, well,
that's your side hustle. You got to have some side hustles. That's what I tell my son.
Totally.
And it all adds up to a career. And I do love teaching. I taught guitar for so long. I literally taught, when I moved to Los Angeles, one of the things I did for a very long time was I was a guitar teacher. And that was my living. I mean, I had one of those little flyer papers that you hang on all the shops, and they had these little tabs that you could pull off at the bottom. And you had my phone number on it, and I took some scissors and I printed it at Sir Speedy, and I cut the little tabs up, guys. You know, the tassels? Gary Hoey's phone number was hanging all over Hollywood. You could have had it. What'd you do? And I literally put on my paper, I said, I will teach you how to play like, and in big letters, I put Stevie Ray Vaughan, I put Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, and I put the 5 biggest guitarists in the world, because those were the people I was trying to play like.
Right.
And so my students were walking, you know, lined up out the door, and I was able to feed myself teaching guitar. And I loved teaching. My friends and my fans and my students were like, it was like we had a therapy session, talked guitar, talked family. Some of them are still my dear friends to this day. You know, teaching guitar is a great thing, man. And I'm going to get back to teaching, actually. I'm going to get back to doing some maybe Zoom and Skype lessons online with people, because it's really fun, man, for me to sit and talk with another guitarist, share ideas, and make some of that. So I'm going to pick a day, maybe one day a week, where I can just give a few hours to that.
That would be awesome, man. That'd be great.
I want to do it.
So you talked to me about working on some new tunes. You're working on some new tunes for a possible new Gary Hoey release.
Yeah. Yes, I have a new album in the works, and you know, I won't give you the long story, you know, because my manager, you know, everyone's been kind of at me like, what's going on with the album. And, you know, I could have put out 2 albums already. You know, since COVID, man, I kind of freaked out. COVID hit, and I'm like, I'm going to take care of my mom. I'm going to do some other stuff. And I just wasn't really into putting out a record that I couldn't tour behind.
Right.
Wasn't really something I just felt good about doing. And I could have put out a record anyway, you know, that people could listen to. But I don't know. I was a little lost for a minute there. I was kind of doing a lot of blues stuff, some rock stuff, and I'm sort of spun all over the place. And now I feel like I have my focus. And sometimes it takes that, man. It takes you to find that spark that makes you say, this is the direction of the record, or this is what makes sense with the songs I'm doing. So I'm feeling great now about what I'm doing with the music. And, you know, it's probably going to have some blues in there for sure. But I think this album is leaning a little more toward the rock.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. It's leaning a little more toward the rock overall, I think. And it's leaning a little more toward some just crazy, serious guitar playing, man. I got to be honest, because losing Eddie Van Halen, you know, God rest his soul. Losing Eddie was a huge one for me, and some of the other people we lost this past year. My mind's going blank. I'm thinking Mountain. I'm thinking of Leslie West.
Leslie West. Yeah,
Leslie
man.
West, and you know, just all these great legendary players. And then all of a sudden, I decided to do a retrospective tour, which makes me go back to my very first albums and really explore what people called me a shredder back in the shredder days and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's seeping into what this new album's becoming, and it is. And you know, it's going to have some rock, some really kick-ass rock in it for sure.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, dude, I am looking forward to it, and I cannot thank you enough for your time today. And I'm going to let you off here so you can go eat your pizza. And I don't know what I'm eating for supper, but I got a feeling I'm getting ready to figure out in just a minute. So
yeah, I was gonna say you got something either cooking or you got to figure it out,
or I got to pick something up. I'm not exactly sure. I got to check. I got to text my wife.
That sounds like my household too. Sometimes I say, do you feel like cooking tonight? Well, you know, my son's become a chef too. He's loving cooking, so he could be in there cooking.
Dude, mine too. Abraham
Isn't that nice? Oh, wow, man. That's nice to hear. Because kids, it's funny, there's kids getting into cooking now. I don't know if it's from the stuff online that they see from different shows, but Ian's all of a sudden into cooking. And my daughter's a bit eating healthy too. So sometimes I can't even get near the kitchen. They're all in there frying stuff up. So
and Ian plays with you quite a bit, right?
Ian's been playing with me a lot, man, over the years, a lot. And, you know, we were practicing a lot for a show that got canceled, you know, because we had a rainstorm come in town. So we had an outdoor drive-in show that didn't happen. So he was bummed.
Oh, man.
But we're still practicing. So I said to him, why don't we just do it online? So I think we're going to play online.
Oh, it's awesome.
Coming up. I think we're going to jump on together and do, I said, we'll call it Hanging with the Hoeys.
Yeah. That would be awesome, man. We'll definitely let us all know, and everybody find Gary Hoey online, find Gary Hoey on social media, find Gary Hoey on Facebook and on Instagram and on all the places that you can find him, and listen to his music everywhere. If you can buy his merchandise online, go buy his merchandise online.
Yeah, and hang with me.
And hang with Hoey. So again, dude, I cannot thank you enough, and I really appreciate your time, brother.
Oh, my pleasure, bro. Thank you for really an awesome hang and great questions. I think a lot of people are going to get some fun things out of this, and hopefully a few laughs. But truly, thank you, brother. Loved hanging with you, man. I look forward to seeing you, and we'll keep each other posted.
Yeah, man. Let's do it in person again soon, okay?
All the best.
All right. Thank you, brother.
My brother.
All right. I'll see you, bro.
See you soon. Bye.
All right, be good.
Thanks so much, brother. Have a great night. Love to the family.
All right, man.
All right. Peace out, Daddy.
All right. Thanks again for watching and listening to the New Conversations in Groove podcast. Like, comment, and subscribe anywhere you find a podcast and on our YouTube channel. Always remember, it's live right here from Earthtones Recording Studio.